Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People.
Imagine that on a resume. Took down crime ring, making sure coworkers get paid.
But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe at the turned-on bell so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go.
How I inadvertently brought down a crime ring. This all happened in 2008. I was 18, I'd just gotten a job at a new restaurant basically next door to me the summer after I graduated from high school. The owner of the restaurant, we'll call him Ken, was an immigrant from Syria. Relevant later in the story. Ken had spent most of his life in the States managing restaurants in Boston, but moved to our area to help some of his family with their struggling business. In the beginning, things were going well. We had a steady flow of customers and some pretty good food. About a month in, however, things shifted. Ken bought a new Mercedes and house. I thought nothing of it. He just moved to the area 2 months prior. Then things got bad. He closed on his house and made his employees move everything for him. Servers, dishwashers, bussers, everyone. He said if we didn't, we'd be fired. So we did. He then started taking vacations and leaving his head chef, who's never even been in a professional kitchen before this job, in charge. He was overwhelmed and just told us all to F off when we had an issue. Fast forward 4 months. Ken's now not paying employees. We started losing a lot of help. It's almost the end of summer, and in a few weeks I'll be quitting for college anyway, so I stuck it out. I started working 13 to 16-hour shifts 6 days a week, which promised good money. It was at this point I was promoted to head of house and got a raise, even though I wasn't being paid. I worked about 3 weeks that way, around 84 to 96 hours a week at $15 an hour. I then learned that one of my only friends there, a Mexican here on a work visa, had not been paid in over a month. He told me he was afraid of quitting because he didn't want to lose his visa like Ken had told him would happen. I was livid. I took my uniform off and stormed to the front of the restaurant where Ken was. It was our dinner rush, which at this point meant 1 or 2 tables of people who'd probably never come back because the food was garbage. I demanded payment for the last 3 weeks, around $3,600 on the spot. He blew up in front of everyone. Normally I'm passive and would back down, but not today. I was pissed. I told him that if he didn't pay me, I was calling the health board, the tax office, we were all getting paid under the table and no taxes were being filed on the business, and the police, and have the place shut down the next day. He paid me. I gave the money to our dishwasher, he needed it more, and told him to take the rest of the night and tomorrow off. The next day, I called the immigration office in our area and explained one of our dishwasher's situation to see if they could help. I set up a meeting with them, I picked him up, and away we went. When we get there, they asked if I could just fill out a statement to add to his file. Sure. I wrote everything. A few days later, I hear sirens. The restaurant's basically next door, remember? I look outside and see Ken being handcuffed and put in the back of a squad car, and the health department bolting the doors. I walk over to see what was going on. Ken was previously being investigated for fraud, and my statement was the evidence that set the investigation over the edge. I read in the paper some months later about it. In the raid, they found his ledger, which showed how much money he'd been skimming from the business, over 6 figures, and he was charged on that. Ken was getting deported back to Syria, and the rest of the sister restaurants were getting shut down pending further investigation. They never reopened. So this is the story about how a fresh 18-year-old inadvertently brought down a minor crime ring in my area, all because I was pissed they took advantage of a friend. And our second story. He was right. Many years ago, I got a programming job for a very new oil and gas automation company. They were the company that O&G companies would hire to build the SCADA systems for their wells. I had heard of the owner from other people in the industry as being interesting to work with, but if they had just come right out and said he was insane, they would have saved me some serious trouble. I was the only SCADA programmer in the office, and as such was incredibly busy with our clients. I was also the only woman other than the receptionist. Being in a male-dominated industry had never bothered me. The owner of the company, however, treated me like his secretary. He'd expect me to get him coffee, make appointments, etc., all while continuing to do my real job. The last straw was the day he berated me within earshot of a client for failing to pick up his dry cleaning, even though I just spent the last 4 hours on the phone trying to troubleshoot why a well wasn't talking to the SCADA system. Aside, it turned out the well was on fire and no one knew because it was so remote. I'd managed to last a month before I finally gave my 2 weeks' notice. Honestly, I could have just walked out, but I wanted to be nice and help him train someone to take my place before I left so our clients weren't left in the lurch. When I told him I was leaving, he went ballistic. He yelled that he wanted nothing to do with me ever again and to leave his office that minute because he didn't want to be in the same room for even a second. We would never work together again, and I'd regret leaving. He was still yelling when I turned around and left the building without saying anything. Less than a week later, I had a new job with an actual oil and gas company. Fast forward a few months, and I loved my job. I was on a very busy team that dealt with many of the company's well sites. We had so much work, in fact, that we had to consider bringing in outside contractors. Because I knew the systems we were dealing with better than anyone else on the team, I was put in charge of assisting the department manager in choosing an automation company to bring in. Being one of the larger O&G companies meant we were courted by every support company, so we had a ton of bids to go through for this job. One of the lowest bids was, of course, Insane Ex-Manager's Company. So he was called in for a meeting. The department manager was running late that day, so she didn't get a chance to brief me as to whom we were meeting before we walked into the conference room, or I would have given her a heads up. We walked in, and the automation company owner's face lost all color when he realized who he was meeting with. Before either the department manager or I could so much as say hello, he started sputtering that there was a misunderstanding between us, and he had no hard feelings if I didn't. I told him that I had no hard feelings against him, but in his own words, we would never work together again. He was right.
And our next story.
Call me a C-word? I'll shut your restaurant down and get you fired. I've had a lot of random jobs in my life. I was working as a waitress in a rural area hotel restaurant a few years ago to get away from the city. It was the kind of place that only stayed open because of remote tourism. People went there to see the outback, Australia. While I worked there, I made pretty good friends with a lot of other staff, chefs, waiters, hostess, hotel manager. They got a new restaurant manager, and she was a total a-hole. Cocky, inexperienced, rude, and ignorant. One of those people who walks into a place and acts like they're better than everyone else. I hate those people. Completely unaware and just unlikable. We got along okay because I made an effort to stroke her ego, but one day she called me into the kitchen and yelled at me in front of everyone there. She thought I'd taken the wrong order out to a table, but she was wrong. Why did you take that order out? It was the wrong order. Now everything's effed up. You need to concentrate more. She was really rude and was clearly trying to humiliate me. At one point, she called me a C-word, which in Australia isn't so bad, but still not workplace talk. I even took it in stride in the moment, but as soon as I got back to my trailer, no houses in that town even, I start to organize. I was really mad that this bee of a woman showed up and started throwing her weight around. If there's one thing I can't abide by, it's unnecessary rudeness and self-importance. She acted like she was so much better than everyone. Calm down, love. You're the manager of an Outback hotel restaurant, not the bloody Hilton. I decided to quit, but that wasn't enough for me. I felt like I'd been treated really badly, and the new manager should learn from her mistakes the hard way. There's never any reason in my book to treat people that badly, especially if their intentions weren't bad. I managed to get 4 other people to agree to walk out with me. So out of a staff of 7 people, they were losing 4 people, me, 2 waiters, a chef, and the hostess, a dishwasher, and a breakfast chef. I went to the office and explained what had happened between me and the manager to the big boss. We were friendly, and he seemed kind of sorry, but not sorry enough to reprimand her. So I handed him my resignation. He acted like I was cutting my nose off to spite my face, and that I should just put up with it because everyone needs a paycheck. I did it professionally and made sure he knew that I was leaving because that woman called me a C-word and was unprofessional. As I walked out the door, I was like, oh, and I'm taking 4 other people with me. They were outside the office and all went in to resign one by one after me. They were so short-staffed that they had to shut the restaurant down for 2 months. The woman who called me a C-word ended up losing her job because there was no restaurant to run, and the people who I left with got a ride with me to the nearest big city and managed to get similar jobs there. So the next time you call someone a C-word to make yourself feel like a big manager, make sure the person isn't versed in revenge. And our last story.
Someone is parking in my paid parking spot. A little bit of background. I live in a high-rise and pay $160 per month for 2 parking spots in the connected parking garage. I have adjoining spots, which is incredibly rare in my building. I live by myself currently, and I have a wide truck that I currently park centered over the line on my double spot to leave room for the people's doors next to me. The parking spot next to me is on the end of the row on a corner, which admittedly can get quite tight at times. They usually park close to the line on my side to give the drivers in the garage more room. Up until now, I've been fine with giving them a little leeway. However, we've never spoken. Previously, they've done little things that make me think they're a bit pretentious. They've left items in my spot that I've had to move out of the way in order to park. They drive the wrong way in the parking garage to get to their spot 5 seconds quicker. This past week, it looks like they disabled the light above their spot due to the spider issue in our garage, and they put the cover pieces in my spot. Again, nothing too bothersome, just weird to me someone does stuff like that. Well, last night this person apparently decides my spot is now their spot, and they park with more than 60% of their car over the dividing line between our two spots. It's so egregiously over the line that there's no way this is a simple mistake. It just so happens that last night I was planning on using both of my spots for the first time in quite a while. I get building security involved, and they contact the owner to get the car moved. It's now the next day, and the car has not been moved yet. I wanted to nip this in the bud because I don't want anyone else to feel entitled to my spot. About an hour after I was told the owner had been contacted, I went down to move my car and found the car still there. I was angry and feeling petty, so I parked my car about 8 inches from their driver's side mirror, but I'm still well within my own parking spots. I posted a picture of the car with the license plate obscured to our building's very active Nextdoor page, effectively saying, "Whoever uses spot X, please move your car. You're in my spot." If for some reason this continues past this evening, I want to escalate. My building, per our bylaws, has the right to impose fines to residents who do not abide by the rules. Update. Since the neighbor was unresponsive, I decided to tow his car. Once the car was moved, I started parking entirely in my spot directly next to them, regardless of if I'll be parking 2 cars or not. I feel I need to set boundaries now.
Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.